Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajaka Ashtotirtha Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajaka Ashtotirtha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 29th day of October 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 11, the Universal Form, text 52. We should be able to finish this chapter tonight. on page 498. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sudurdarsham Sudurdarsham Idam Rupam Drishtavan Asiyan Mama Deva Api Asya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sudurdarshamidam Rupam Drishtavan Asiyan Mama Devapyasya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sudurdarshamidam Rupam Drishtavan Asiyan Mama Deva Apyasya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sudurdarshamidam Rupam Drishtavan Asiyan Mama Deva Apyasya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sudurdarshamidam Rupam Drishtavan Asiyan Mama Deva Apyasya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha. I don't think you want to chant. You're not ready to chant yet. You want to try it? Go ahead. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sudardarshamidam Rupam Drishtavan Asiyan Mama Deva Apyasya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha. Anyone online? We used to have him online. He would be in Nebraska and he would always chime in. No, that's all right. Okay, I'll just read the word by words. You can read along silently. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Sudur Darsham, very difficult to see, Idam, this, Rupam, form, Drishtavan, Asi, as you have seen, Yat, which, Mama, of mine, Devaha, the demigods, Api also Asya, this, Rupasya form, Nityam, eternally, Darshana Kangshinaha, aspiring to see. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear. Now, the form he's talking about now is the two-armed form, of the original form of Krishna. Purport. In the 48th verse of this chapter, Lord Krishna concluded revealing his universal form and informed Arjuna that this form is not possible to be seen by so many pious activities, sacrifices, etc. Now, here the word Sudur Darsham is used, indicating that Krishna's two-handed form is still more confidential. One may be able to see the universal form of Krishna by adding a little tinge of devotional service to various activities like penances, Vedic study, and philosophical speculation. It may be possible, but without a tinge of bhakti, one cannot see. That has already been explained. Still, beyond that universal form, the form of Krishna with two hands is still more difficult to see, even for demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva. They desire to see him, and we have evidence in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when he was supposed to be in the womb of his mother Devaki, all the demigods from heaven came to see the marvel of Krishna, and they offered nice prayers to the Lord, although he was not at that time visible to them. They waited to see him. A foolish person may deride him, thinking him an ordinary person, and may offer respect not to him, but to the impersonal something within him. But these are all nonsensical postures. Krishna in his two-armed form is actually desired to be seen by demigods like Brahma and Shiva. And just a note about a little revision that was made. They desire, let's see, when is it? Okay, they desire to see him, the demigods like Brahma and Shiva. They desire to see him, and we have evidence in the Srimad Bhagavad that when he was supposed to be in the womb of his mother. Now, what he means by that is not that he was supposed to be in the womb of his mother, but that he was known to be in the womb of his mother, Devaki. And then they came. You understand? It makes sense. Supposed to be usually means that he really isn't, right? He was. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:11, it is also confirmed, Avijananti mamudha manushim tanam ashritam. He is not visible to the foolish persons who deride him. Krishna's body, as confirmed by Brahma Samhita and confirmed by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, is completely spiritual and full of bliss and eternality. His body is never like a material body. But for some who make a study of Krishna by reading the Bhagavad Gita or similar Vedic scriptures, Krishna is a problem. For one using a material process, Krishna is considered to be a great historical personality and very learned philosopher. But he is an ordinary man, and even though he was so powerful, he had to accept a material body. Ultimately, they think that the absolute truth is impersonal. Therefore, they think that from his impersonal feature, he assumed a personal feature attached to material nature. This is a materialistic calculation of the Supreme Lord. Another calculation is speculative. Those who are in search of knowledge also speculate on Krishna and consider him to be less important than the universal form of the Supreme. Thus, some think that the universal form of Krishna, which was manifested to Arjuna, is more important than his personal form. According to them, the personal form of the Supreme is something imaginary. They believe that in the ultimate issue, the absolute truth is not a person, but the transcendental process is described in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, to hear about Krishna from authorities. That is the actual Vedic process, and those who are actually in the Vedic line hear about Krishna from authority, and by repeated hearing about him, Krishna becomes dear. As we have several times discussed, Krishna is covered by his Yoga Maya potency. He is not to be seen or revealed to anyone and everyone. Only by one to whom he reveals himself can he be seen. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature. For one who is a surrendered soul, the absolute truth can actually be understood. The transcendentalist, by continuous Krishna consciousness and by devotional service to Krishna, can have his spiritual eyes opened and can see Krishna by revelation. Such a revelation is not possible even for the demigods. Therefore, it is difficult even for the demigods to understand Krishna. And the advanced demigods are always in hope of seeing Krishna in his two-handed form. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very, very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand his personal form as Shyamasundar. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So this is near the end of the chapter now. And things are becoming more in perspective. The universal form has been quite an experience for Arjuna. And frankly, he was afraid of it, and I think we would be too, to see this, incredibly large form, and especially on the battlefield. And he was just destroying the other side. The enemies they were being chewed in his mouths, and it's just awe-inspiring and frightening. So this is one aspect of Krishna, but it's not the ultimate. It's very important to understand the hierarchy of Krishna's manifestations. And there's this verse near the beginning of the Bhagavatam describing what those who are learned understand the absolute truth to be in three phases. Vadanti tat tattavidas tattvam jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. So the first part of the verse says Vadanti tat tattavidas, those who are tattvavida. Those who are tattvavit, they know the truth by revelation, they've seen. They declare that the absolute truth, the Supreme Person, appears in these three manifestations. The Super Soul, you see, actually the first one is Brahman, the great white light, which is consciousness, but it's undifferentiated. There's no details. That's where the Nirvishesha comes in. Nirvishesha in Prabhupada's Pranamansar. Vishesh means detail, and Nir means no detail. So it's completely homogeneous white light, you see. And there's Krishna's form is Satchit Ananda, right? It's eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So the eternal aspect, the Sat aspect, is there in Brahman, but not the knowledge or the bliss aspect, you see. Then there's the local aspect in the heart called the Super Soul. Not only in the heart, but within every atom, sustaining everything. Conscious being, a plenary expansion of Krishna, but not the all-attractive form that performs Leela as Bhagavan. So that's the secondary. And the yogis can achieve that revelation through the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, meditation, austerity, and so forth. He can understand the Super Soul. But the third one is Brahmeti Paramami Bhagavan iti Shabdite. Now Bhagavan has a meaning. It means he who possesses all opulences. Now Prabhupada changed the language, certainly in ISKCON. The word opulence can mean something that is an element of wealth. If you look it up in a dictionary, it means having wealth. And your state of opulence means how rich you are. But we'll accept Prabhupada's meaning. So what are those opulences? So Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashashak Shriya Jnana Vairagayoschaiva Shannam Bhaga Itingana. Shannam Bhaga Itingana. Bhaga means an opulence. That's why it's Bhagavan. Van means the possessor of something. That's why we have this Van's supermarket. You go, they possess so many things. Where do you think they got the name? Anyway, so Bhagavan, and what are those six opulences? So this is a verse by Parashara Muni, the father of Vyasadeva, and it's understood as a definition, or kind of a rough definition of God, of Krishna. So Aishwarasya, the first is what we commonly see as wealth. You see, Prabhupada would point out one may be very wealthy. Nowadays, you have these multi-billionaires who have an inconceivable wealth, and it's stored somewhere, various banks, offshore, whatever it may be. They keep it, accessible. So that's impressive compared to the average person. $1 billion. What to speak of $100 billion? But it's not all the wealth. The samagrasya means all, means infinite wealth. Even though we may claim that we have so much money, we own this and I own this and this is my signature is on the contract, we really don't own it. It really belongs to Krishna. It really belongs to God. So that's one aspect of his opulence. So and samagrasya means all. Viryasya, that's another one, strength. What's a good example of the strength? Who can give? We just had a holiday celebrating. Hare Krishna. Thanks for coming. Hare Bol. Yes, just that signal. You know what that means? Kathy? No, the left hand. It's got to be the left hand. Left. Your weaker arm. Yeah. Maybe we could hold it up with the right now. So that's the strength, holding up the mountain. And so many other things. I mean, killing those demons in Vrindavan, he showed extraordinary strength, and Agasura and Arishtasura, and all of them, So that's another one, superhuman strength. Aishwarya Samaviryasya Yashashak, fame. Prabhupada would point out that even if people don't know the name Krishna, everyone knows the name God, even those who don't believe in God, but he's still famous, even though he may not think he exists. But he does exist. And he's the most famous person that there could possibly be, down through the ages and even today. Yashashak and Shriya, beauty. Now this is obviously completely 180 degrees against the impersonal aspect. And even the other aspects of Krishna, he manifests himself as the boar and as the Shringadev. Well, okay, there's power is there, the fame is there, but the beauty, I don't know, not like Krishna has. His beauty is all attractive, So that's a very important opulence. Jnana, knowledge. He's omniscient. He knows everything, past, present, and future. I remember when I first read the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most, for some reason, I don't know, but one of the most amazing aspects of God is mentioned there in the verse. How's this? I can't believe it. Anyway, I forgot the Sanskrit. It says, I know everything in the past, everything that's happening now, and everything that will happen in the future. Just try to think of what that means. How many different things are happening right now? Not just in this room or even on this planet, or throughout the whole universe. There's millions. And for some entity to know all of that through the super soul. The super soul is everywhere, in everyone's heart and in every atom. And so that omniscience is somehow, that just blew my mind. That there's an entity who knows everything that's happened in the past, everything, every little thing, and everything that's happening now, and everything that happened in the future. Just think of how awe-inspiring that is. So that's another thing, jnana in all its aspects, and vairagya. Now vairagya, Prabhupada always says renunciation, which is of course accurate, but vairagya, in the context, it means detachment. It means he has all of this opulence and he has all of the things, but he's not attached to it. He's self-sufficient and self-satisfied completely in himself. So that's the 6 opulences of Krishna, and those are the opulences he manifested in this 2-armed form. The 4-armed form doesn't quite have the beauty, and it doesn't. And in the pastimes, what does he actually do? And so, huh? I know. You don't really hear much description of it, So anyway, that's why the two-handed form, the human-like form, is desired to be seen by all the devas, and we should also desire. Okay, so that's, and then Prabhupada again, I think he's got some criticism here of the speculators who speculate on Krishna, and then they teach that God is ultimately impersonal. This is all a reflection of their envy, actually, because to understand that God is personal and that He possesses all of the things that we aspire for in an infinite form, it means that the only reasonable relationship is one of service, is one of surrender. Because the competition is just absurd. But that's what we're doing in the conditioned state. And it's keeping us bound here to the world of suffering. So Krishna will... Hare Krishna. Welcome. We're going to have darshan at 8:15. We'll have a nice kirtan. And meanwhile, we'll have a class on Bhagavad Gita. So if you want, you can sit on the floor or sit on one of those comfortable benches. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we will go on to text 53. Naham vedayana tapasa nadanena nachejaya shakya evam vido drashtum drishtavan asimamita. The form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by this means that one can see me as I am. And he's setting up the last verse, which Prabhupada says, let's see. Therefore, anyway, we'll see that Prabhupada says how this verse, the text 54, which we'll read in a couple of minutes, encompasses the actual essence of the Gita. Okay, purport to 53. Krishna first appeared before his parents Devaki and Vasudeva in a 4-handed form, a baby form. And then he transformed himself into the 2-handed form. This mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheists or who are devoid of devotional service. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by way of grammatical knowledge or mere academic qualifications, Krishna is not possible to understand. Nor is he to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship. They make their visit, but they cannot understand Krishna as he is. Krishna can be understood only through the path of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself in the next verse. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 55. It's the next. This verse has a long purport. I thought it was the last verse, but the next verse is the one that is the essence of the Gita. So he's making that in this purport, in this verse and purport, he's making the essential point that is kind of the foundation of Bhakti Yoga. And that is, if you want to know God, you have to become submissive and worship and actually learn to love Him. He responds to love. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha. This is in the 18th chapter, a very key verse. Bhaktya mam, but bhakti means loving devotional service. Abhijanati, one can understand me. Bhaktya mam abhijanati na... Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha. One can understand me in truth. You see? Bhaktya mam abhijanati tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. And having understood me in this way and established a loving relationship with me, one can go back to the spiritual world. That's the whole program right there. The understanding is a result of the devotion and the submission and bhakti. Then Krishna reveals himself progressively. And if we're 100% surrendered and loving, then we'll understand him to the limit that we can understand him. That's the whole point. Krishna responds to bhakti. He doesn't respond to, he responds to glorification, but that's not going to take you completely there. That glorification has to mature into the desire to serve and to, hear about Krishna's intimate activities too. So this next verse describes that. Bhaktya tunannaya shakya ahamevam vidorjana gyatam drashtam cha tattvena praveshtam cha parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Purport. Krishna can be understood only by the process of undivided devotional service. He explicitly explains this in this verse so that unauthorized commentators who try to understand the Bhagavad Gita by the speculative process will know that they are simply wasting their time. No one can understand Krishna or how he came from parents in a four-handed form and at once changed himself into a two-handed form. These things are very difficult to understand by study of the Vedas or by philosophical speculation. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that no one can see him or enter into understanding of these matters. Those who, however, are very experienced students of Vedic literature can learn about him from the Vedic literature in so many ways. There are so many rules and regulations, and if one at all wants to understand Krishna, he must follow the regulative principles described in the authoritative literature. One can perform penance in accordance with those principles. Now, one should understand, the word penance in Prabhupada's vocabulary is entirely synonymous with austerities. Sometimes you'll say austerity and penance, but if you understand, penance is a technical word that means repentance, Hiranyakashipu did not perform any penances. He performed austerities, but he wasn't repenting at all. So anyways, this is Prabhupada's language. It's always penances and austerities. Welcome. Thank you. He's increased our attendance by 33%. Or 50%, actually. One could perform penance in accordance with these principles. For example, to undergo serious penances, one may observe fasting on Janmashtami, the day on which Krishna appeared, and on the 2 days of Ekadashi, the 11th day after the new moon and the 11th day after the full moon. As far as charity is concerned, it is plain that charity should be given to the devotees of Krishna who are engaged in his devotional service to spread the Krishna philosophy or Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Krishna consciousness is a benediction to humanity. Lord Chaitanya was appreciated by Rupa Goswami as the most munificent man of charity because love of Krishna, which is very difficult to achieve, was distributed freely by him. So I can't resist now. Let's see how many of us can remember this verse, which is the key verse. Namo Mahabodhanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvijay Namaha. I think you basically got it down. So this is a very Namo Maha. So Lord Rupa Goswami offered this prayer when Lord Chaitanya visited him and his brother at Ramkeli when he was on his tour, right after he took sannyas. And so, you know, they had the right and left hand of the king. They had very responsible posts as the finance minister and the prime minister. I think Sanatan was the prime minister and Rupa was the finance minister. And but they immediately saw, you know, because they were born in Brahmin families, they were trained and everything. They realized, oh, this is the divinity himself, and he's teaching devotees. So they immediately surrendered, and they accepted his instruction to give it all up and go to Vrindavan, take sannyas, write books, and build temples and excavate the places of pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So they did that as soon as possible. They did pay visits to Lord Chaitanya when you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So what is this verse? Namo Mahabodhanyaya. I offer my obeisances to Danya. Dana is a gift. Like I made the point of, you know, this wonderful Abhay Dan Mudra that Radharani is always given, the gift of fearlessness, which is great. Abhay. So Dan is a gift. And Namo Mahabodhanyaya, but Bodhanya is the adjective meaning munificent. Now there's a difference between munificent and magnanimous. Prabhupada loved that word magnanimous, and he would sometimes use it in the place of munificent. Magnanimous really emphasizes the forgiving nature of some powerful person. You know, he's very forgiving and open-hearted and open. Munificent emphasizes the giving nature, the actual charity nature. So Lord Chaitanya was both. Now he forgave Jagai and Madai, you know, at Lord Nityananda's insistence, you know. So he's forgiving, but he's also giving. He's both magnanimous and munificent. And magnificent, why not? Magnificently munificent. I don't know, maybe, why not? So, where was I? In the middle of this purport, right?
Yes, somewhere. Near the bottom, I think.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, because Lord Chaitanya was appreciated as Rupa Goswami, the most magnificent man of charity, because love of Krishna, which is very difficult to achieve, was distributed freely by him. So, Namo Mahabodhanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate. So the prema is the most valuable thing that there can be. So if one gives some amount of his money to persons involved in distributing Krishna consciousness, that charity given to spread Krishna consciousness is the greatest charity in the world. And if one worships as prescribed in the temples in India, there is always some statue, usually of Vishnu or Krishna. That is a chance to progress by offering worship and respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the beginners in devotional service to the Lord, temple worship is essential. And this is confirmed in the Vedic literature, Shvedashvara Upanishad 6.23, excuse me. Yasya devi para bhakta yata devi tata goro tasyate katataya ta prakashante mahatmanaha. One who has unflinching devotion for the Supreme Lord and is directed by the spiritual master, in whom he has similar unflinching faith, can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead by revelation. One cannot understand Krishna by mental speculation. For one who does not take personal training under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, it is impossible to even begin to understand Krishna. The word "to" is specifically used here to indicate that no other process can be used, can be recommended, or can be successful in understanding Krishna. Wow, this is important. So emphasizing the need for bhakti in order to Krishna to reveal himself fully to you, or to the extent that we can understand. The personal forms of Krishna, the two-handed form and the four-handed, are described as sudur darsham, very difficult to see. They are completely different from the temporary universal form shown to Arjuna. The four-handed form of Narayan and the two-handed form of Krishna are eternal and transcendental, whereas the universal form exhibited to Arjuna is temporary. The word Tvaranyena Nadrishta Purvam, text 47, state the words, that before Arjuna no one had seen that universal form. Also, they suggest that amongst the devotees there was no necessity of showing it. That form was exhibited by Krishna at the request of Arjuna, so that in the future, when one represents himself as an incarnation of God, people can ask to see his universal form. The word na, used repeatedly in the previous verse, indicates that one should not be very much proud of such credentials as an academic education in Vedic literature. One must take to the devotional service of Krishna, only then can one attempt to write commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna changes from the universal form to the four-handed form of Narayan, and then to his own natural form of two hands. This indicates that the four-handed forms and the other forms mentioned in Vedic literature are all emanations of the original two-handed Krishna. He is the origin of all emanations. Krishna is distinct even from those forms, what to speak of the impersonal conception. As far as the four-handed forms of Krishna are concerned, it is stated clearly that even the most identical four-handed form of Krishna, which is known as Mahavishnu, who is lying on the cosmic ocean, and from whose breathing so many innumerable universes are passing out and entering, is also an expansion of the Supreme Lord. As stated in the Brahma Samhita 548, Yasyaika nishvasitakada matavalambhya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanathāha Vishnu mahansahi yasya kalabhishesho govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Mahavishnu, into whom all the innumerable universes enter and from whom they come forth again simply by his breathing process, is a plenary expansion of Krishna. Therefore I worship Govinda, Krishna, the cause of all causes. Therefore, one should conclusively worship the personal form of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has eternal bliss and knowledge. He is the source of all forms of Vishnu. He is the source of all forms of incarnation. And he is the original Supreme Personality as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. In the Vedic literature, the Gopal Tapani Upanishad 1.1, the following statement appears, Satchidananda Rupaya Krishnaya Krishnakarine Namo Vedanta Vedaya Gurave Buddhi Sakshine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Krishna, who has a transcendental form of bliss, eternity, and knowledge. I offer my respect to him because understanding him means understanding the Vedas, and he is therefore the supreme spiritual master. Close quote. Then it is said, Krishna vai padamam daivatam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gopal Tapani Upanishad 1.3. Eko vishi sarvaga Krishna idya eko pisan bahudayo vabhati. Quote, that one Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is worshipable. Although he is one, he is manifested in unlimited forms and expanded incarnations. Gopal Tapani Upanishad 121. The Brahma Samhita 5.1 says, Ishvarak Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Savakarana Karanam. You familiar with that one? Okay. We should all know this one. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna, who has a body of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. He has no beginning, for he is the beginning of everything. He is the cause of all causes. In the Vishnu Purana 4.11.4, it is said, Yatra Vatirnam Krishnakyam Padam Brahma Narakriti. The Supreme Absolute Truth is a person, his name is Krishna, and he sometimes descends to this earth. Close quote. Similarly, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find a description of all kinds of incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in this list the name of Krishna also appears. But then it is said that Krishna is not an incarnation of God, but is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Ete chanksa kalapungsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Swayam. One note on that phrase. I remember when, back in Brooklyn, when I first saw it, we had made some stationery, that you write letters on. It has ISKCON at the top. And Prabhupada, he oversaw that creation of the stationery, and he had that phrase, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, printed on the stationery. It was an essential. It's said to be this whole verse, I think, or just maybe that first line, Ete Changsakalapunkta Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, is said to be the Paribhas Sutra of the Bhagavatam. A Paribhas Sutra is the essential idea of the book, encompassed in a certain phrase. And I think it was Jiva Goswami who designated it as such, because everything is like, Krishna, the whole movement is based on the fact that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. You see? And everything expands from that. If you accept those two things, then you can go on. So Prabhupada is and it's not an accident that he's quoting all these things. This is because he's depending on. It's probably that a lot of these quotes are there in the commentary of Baladev Vijayabhushan, which is what he uses as prime source. So it's very authoritative. That's everything is based on the Shastra. Okay, I think in the Vishnu Purana, I think that's where I am. In the Vishnu Purana 4.11.4. It is said, Yat Ravatirnam Krishnakyam Padam Brahma Narakuti. No, I read that. Ete Chanksa, the next paragraph. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Mattak Padatanang Nanyat. There is nothing superior to my form as the personality of Godhead, Krishna. Close quote. He also says elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, Ahamadihi Devanam, I am the origin of all the demigods. And after understanding the Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, Arjuna also confirms this in the following words, and this is from the last chapter. You remember those 4 essential verses? So after those 4 essential verses, 8 to 11, then Arjuna says this to Krishna, Padam Brahma, Padam Dhamma, Pavatram Padamam Bhavan. I now fully understand that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, and that you are the refuge of everything. Pavatram Padamam, the Supreme Purifier also. Therefore, the universal form which Krishna showed to Arjuna is not the original form of God. The original is Krishna, is the Krishna form. The universal form, with its thousands and thousands of heads and hands, is manifest just to draw the attention of those who have no love for God. It is not God's original form. The universal form is not attractive for pure devotees, who are in love with the Lord in different transcendental relationships. The Supreme Godhead exchanges transcendental love in his original form of Krishna. Therefore, to Arjuna, who was so intimately related with Krishna in friendship, this form of the universal manifestation was not pleasing. Rather, it was fearful. Arjuna, who was a constant companion of Krishna's, must have had transcendental eyes. He was not an ordinary man. Therefore, he was not captivated by the universal form. This form may seem wonderful to persons who are involved in elevating themselves by fruitive activities, but to persons who are engaged in devotional service, the two-handed form of Krishna is the most dear. So, okay, and there comes this last verse, which is, yeah, go ahead.
So on page 502, near the Brahma Samhita part, it says...
is it before?
Yeah, before. So it is clear. It is stated clearly that even the most identical four-handed form of Krishna, Mahavishnu. So what is meant by the identical four-handed form?
As I read that, I was also puzzled by what does that actually mean. He's certainly very large, but the way he's painted there, maybe under Prabhupada's direction, he looks very much like the original Krishna, except with 4 hands. But I really couldn't. I would just be speculating on why is the Mahavishnu form rather than the Garbhodaksha Vishnu form or the Chiradaksha Vishnu form more identical. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. I couldn't really answer. I don't want to speculate. No worries. All right, here it comes. Now this verse. In its second sentence of the purport, I'll just read. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. As soon as I read that, I memorized this verse. This is one of the first verses I ever memorized. Text 55. Mat karma krin mat paramo mad bhakta sangha varjitaha Nirvairak sarva bhuteshu yaksamameti pandava. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. Purport. Anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality, Krishna, must take this formula as stated by the Supreme himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. I think next time I get to give a Sunday feast, I'll use this verse. Sunday feast talk. The Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls who are engaged in the material world with the purpose of lording it over nature and who do not know of the real spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the Supreme Spiritual Personality, and to teach one how to go back home, back to Godhead. Now here is the verse which clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in his spiritual activity. Devotional, this is it, devotional service. As far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities, as stated in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-255. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyamuchyate. No work should be done by any man except in relationship to Krishna. That includes women too. This is called Krishna karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the result of his work. The result should be done only for him. For example, one may be engaged in business, but to transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. If Krishna is the proprietor of the business, then Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. If a businessman is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer all this to Krishna, he can do it. This is work for him. This is work for Krishna. Instead of constructing a big building for his sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple for Krishna. And he can install the deity of Krishna and arrange for the deity's service, as is outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. This is all Krishna karma. One should not be attached to the result of his work, but the result should be offered to Krishna, and one should accept as prasadam the remnants of offerings to Krishna. If one constructs a very big building for Krishna and installs the deity of Krishna, one is not prohibited from living there, but it is understood that the proprietor of the building is Krishna. That is called Krishna consciousness. If, however, one is not able to construct a temple for Krishna, one can engage himself in cleansing the temple of Krishna. That is also Krishna karma. One can cultivate a garden. Anyone who has land, in India at least any poor man has a certain amount of land, can utilize that for Krishna by growing flowers to offer him. One can sow tulsi plants, because tulsi leaves are very important, and Krishna has recommended this in the Bhagavad Gita. Patram pushpam palam toyam. Krishna desires that one offer him either a leaf or a flower or a fruit or a little water, and by such an offering he is satisfied. The leaf especially refers to the tulsi. So one can sow tulsi plants and pour water on the plant. Thus even the poorest man can engage in the service of Krishna. These are some of the examples of how one can engage in working for Krishna. The word matparamaha refers to one who considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. Such a person does not wish to be elevated to the higher planets, such as the moon or sun, or the heavenly planets, or even the highest planet of this universe, Brahmaloka. He has no attraction for that. He is attracted only to being transferred to the spiritual sky. And even in the spiritual sky, he's not satisfied with merging into the glowing Brahma Jyoti effulgence, for he wants to enter the highest spiritual planet, namely Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. He has full knowledge of that planet, and therefore he is not interested in any other. As indicated by the word madbhaktaha, he fully engages in devotional service, specifically in the 9 processes of devotional engagement: hearing about Krishna, chanting about him, remembering him, worshiping him, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with him, and surrendering everything to him. One can engage in all 9 devotional processes, or 8, or 7, or at least in 1, and that will surely make one perfect. The term Sanghavarjitaha is very significant. One should disassociate himself from persons who are against Krishna. Not only are the atheistic persons against Krishna, but so also are those who are attracted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. Therefore, the pure form of devotional service is described in the Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 as follows. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma. Okay, let's do the verse. You ready? Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma janavratam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami clearly states that if anyone wants to execute unalloyed devotional service, he must be freed from all kinds of material contamination. He must be freed from the association of persons who are addicted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. When, freed from such unwanted association and from the contamination of material desires, one favorably cultivates knowledge of Krishna, that is called pure devotional service. Anukulyasya sankalpa Patikulyasya Varjanam, Hari Bhakti Vilas 11.676. One should think of Krishna and act for Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. Kamsa was an enemy of Krishna's. From the very beginning of Krishna's birth, Kamsa planned in so many ways to kill him. And because Kamsa was always unsuccessful, he was always thinking of Krishna. Thus, while working, while eating, while sleeping, he was always Krishna conscious in every respect. But that Krishna consciousness was not favorable, and therefore, in spite of his always thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, he was considered a demon, and Krishna at last killed him. Of course, anyone who is killed by Krishna attains salvation immediately, but that is not the aim of the pure devotee. The pure devotee does not even want salvation. He does not want to be transferred even to the highest planet, Goloka Vrindavan. His only objective is to serve Krishna wherever he may be, wherever he, the devotee, may be. A devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said here that he has no enemy, nirvaira. How is this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce this system, Krishna consciousness, into human society. There are many examples in history of devotees of the Lord who risked their lives for the spreading of God consciousness. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. He was crucified by the non-devotees, but he sacrificed his life for spreading God consciousness. Of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. Similarly, in India also, there are many examples such as Thakur Haridas and Prahlad Maharaj. Why such risk? Because they wanted to spread Krishna consciousness, and it is difficult. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving one's neighbor from all material problems. In such a way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. And that sentence, I think, was revised a little bit. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is giving them Krishna consciousness and then relieving them from all material problems. In such a way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such persons must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. In summary, the universal form of Krishna, which is a temporary manifestation, and the form of time, which devours everything, and even the form of Vishnu, four-handed, have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus, Krishna is the origin of all these manifestations. It is not that Krishna is a manifestation of the original Vishvarupa or Vishnu. Krishna is the origin of all forms. There are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important but the original form, two-handed Shyamasundar. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that those who are attached to the Shyamasundar form of Krishna in love and devotion can see him always within the heart and cannot see anything else. One should understand, therefore, that the purport of this 11th chapter is that the form of Krishna is essential and supreme. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the universal form. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And that brings us to 10 after 8, just in time for a few nectar poems, if you indulge me. Huh? I should have one, but I don't. I'm sorry. Well, let's see. I have one where the boys are all, led by Krishna and Balaram, are all going out into the forest. And on this day, Radharani is among them. Okay. Let's go, said Krishna. Don't delay at all. And he and Balaram began to run ahead of all their coward friends who called, "Oh, Krishna, Rama, let us join the fun." And off they ran to Braja's forest haunts to play in every bower, grove, and sward. The boys would tease their friend with playful taunts, forgetting his position as the Lord. Shri Krishna is inviting us as well to join him in his pastimes with enthrall. The wise heed Krishna when they hear him tell, "Let's go, my friends, do not delay at all." Okay, time for one more. The sweetness of Shri Krishna's form beguiles. Still sweeter is his face like autumn moon, but sweeter than the sweetest is his smile, whose luscious beauty makes the gopis swoon. Govinda's beauty captivates the doves, the swans, the deer, the cows, and every tree. Indeed, in Braja, every creature loves Shri Krishna and is drowned in ecstasy. That all-enchanting land is paradise, our home where we may dwell eternally. Most welcome there are those who pay the price to learn to love Shri Krishna perfectly. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for listening.